Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I want you to stop scrolling for just a moment and listen, because what I'm about to tell you might hurt, not because it's cruel, but because it's true. You've seen it happen to men you know, maybe even to yourself. A man gives everything, his time, his heart, his focus, and somehow, piece by piece, he begins to lose himself. Not overnight, slowly, silently, until one day he looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the man staring back. And the most painful part, he still loves the woman who helped destroy him. Before we go deeper into this, make sure you subscribe and like the video, because what I'm about to share isn't just information, it's protection. Now, let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Not every woman who destroys a man sets out to do it. Some do it unconsciously, through emotional manipulation, guilt, or control disguised as love. Others, they know exactly what they're doing. They target men who lead with loyalty, empathy, and effort. The ones raised to believe that love means sacrifice. These men become their playground. They use his kindness as leverage. His patience becomes her weapon. His forgiveness becomes her permission to do it again. It often starts beautifully. She admires his strength, praises his dreams, and makes him feel seen in ways no one else ever has. But once she senses his devotion, the shift begins. The admiration turns into expectation. The affection turns conditional. She starts testing how much she can take. His time, his money, his energy, his peace. And the more he gives, the less she respects him. This is where most men fall, not because they're weak, but because they're loyal to the image of who she was, not the reality of who she became. He keeps trying to fix what he didn't break, hoping love will make her remember the man she once adored. But she won't, because now she knows she has control. If you've ever found yourself explaining your worth to someone who stopped valuing it, this video is for you. Because what destroys a man isn't a woman's beauty or charm. It's his own blindness to how far he's fallen from himself in the name of love. And that's where we begin. She doesn't destroy him in one dramatic blow. No, that would be too obvious. She does it in pieces, one boundary at a time, one apology at a time, one silent punishment at a time. And he barely notices because it feels like love, like compromise, like care, like just how relationships are. But that's the illusion. That's the slow erosion of a man's core. At first, she praises him for being patient. Then she starts calling that same patience boring. At first, she adores how attentive he is. Later, she says he's too clingy. The very qualities that made her fall for him become the ones she uses against him. And when he tries to adjust, to be better for her, she moves the goalpost again. It's never enough, because it's not about love anymore. It's about control. This is where men lose their balance. They think love means giving endlessly, proving worth, earning peace. But that's not love. That's servitude disguised as devotion. A woman who truly values you will not punish your heart for being kind. She won't make you feel small to make herself feel powerful. Yet too many men stay, not because they're weak, but because they can't admit the truth, that she stopped caring long before he stopped trying. And here's the brutal truth most men never want to face. She doesn't have to scream, cheat, or leave to destroy you. Sometimes she does it by staying just enough to confuse you, by loving you just enough to keep you hoping. She'll let you do all the emotional labor while she feeds you crumbs of affection when you're on the edge of giving up. It's psychological warfare in a velvet dress. You start second-guessing your instincts, walking on eggshells, censoring your truth just to avoid conflict. You begin to lose your fire, your confidence, your ambition, because every disagreement becomes a test, and every moment of peace feels borrowed. And one day, you realize something haunting. You stopped fighting for the relationship a long time ago. Now, you're just fighting for your sanity inside of it. That's the quiet collapse most men never talk about. The one that leaves you functional but empty, smiling in public, dying in private. The question is, how does a man so strong, so full of potential, become so small under one person's influence? It begins when a man forgets who he was before her, before the constant apologies, before the doubt, before he started editing himself to keep her happy. That's how a woman truly destroys a man. Not by breaking his body, but by convincing him that his soul needs her to survive. You see, she doesn't take his confidence all at once. She makes him question it, subtly. A comment here, a look there. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You always make things about you. Slowly, his reality bends. He begins to doubt his perception of events. That's emotional manipulation, and it's far more dangerous than anger, because it rewires his mind to believe that peace means silence, that love means tolerance, and that pain means growth. But here's what she doesn't expect, that one day he starts to wake up. Maybe it's the way she mocks his ambition. Maybe it's the coldness in her voice when he shares something vulnerable. Maybe it's just the exhaustion, the soul-level fatigue of carrying the weight of two people's happiness. And in that moment, he realizes the person he's been fighting to keep is the same one who's been slowly killing his spark. Men rarely talk about this because society shames them for it. Man up, they're told. Don't let a woman get to you. But emotional abuse doesn't care about gender. It's psychological warfare that eats at your confidence until you can't even recognize what healthy love looks like anymore. You start mistaking chaos for passion, indifference for strength, and control for care. And the worst part, you'll defend her. You'll defend the very person who's been dismantling you because she once held you like no one else did. That's how powerful emotional conditioning is. You crave the same hand that hurt you because at one point it also healed you. But let me tell you something a man rarely hears. You don't lose your strength when you walk away. You reclaim it. Because the moment you stop chasing the version of her that only existed in your memories, you begin to see the truth. You were never hard to love. You were just easy to use by someone who mistook your kindness for weakness. The real destruction doesn't come from losing her. It comes from losing yourself, trying to make her stay. Every man remembers the moment it hits him, that quiet, shattering realization that she never truly saw him. She saw what he could do for her, how he could make her feel, how his presence made her life easier. But him, his soul, his struggles, his silent battles, she never looked deep enough to see those. That's when the destruction is complete. When a man gives his all and still feels invisible. You know what's crazy? She'll tell people he changed. She'll say, he's not the same anymore. But she won't tell them why. She won't say that he changed because he was tired of being the only one fighting for a connection that used to feel effortless. She won't say that she withdrew affection as punishment, that she used silence like a knife. She won't admit that every time he tried to communicate, she turned it into a performance of blame. No, she'll call him cold, distant, detached, when in truth, he's just empty. And that's how good men start disappearing. Not from the world, but from themselves. They stop trusting their emotions, stop dreaming out loud, stop believing in love. They build walls around their heart, thinking they're protecting it, when really they're just imprisoning it. The destruction doesn't always end with heartbreak. Sometimes it ends with numbness. But here's the paradox. Even after all that, he still misses her. Not because he wants her back, but because she represents the part of him that believed love was safe. That belief, that hope, is what she destroyed most completely. This is where a man either breaks or awakens, because pain has a strange way of showing you who you are beneath everything fake. It strips away illusion. It forces you to confront your dependence on external validation. And once you do, you start rebuilding. Not for her, not for revenge, but for yourself. You start remembering who you were before the manipulation, before the guilt, before you traded your peace for her approval. That version of you, the one that laughed freely, dreamed boldly, spoke honestly, he's still there. He's buried under disappointment, yes, but he's waiting for you to choose him again. When a man finally does that, when he chooses himself over the woman who broke him, that's when her power ends. Because she can only destroy the man who believes he needs her to be whole. Once he sees his own worth, she loses control forever. There's something haunting about watching a man rebuild himself after being emotionally destroyed. You can see it in his eyes, that quiet resolve, that cautious strength. He doesn't trust easily anymore, not because he hates love, but because he's learned how fragile his peace can be when given to the wrong hands. Every man who's been broken by a woman learns this.
peace is more valuable than passion. But before that healing happens, there's a dark stage, a phase where he questions everything, himself, his worth, even reality. He replays conversations, trying to understand where he went wrong. He wonders if he was too soft, too loyal, too available. But what he doesn't realize yet is that it wasn't his softness that destroyed him. It was giving that softness to someone who didn't know how to handle it. That's the part no one tells men. You can love deeply and still walk away. You can forgive and still protect your boundaries. You can care and still say, enough. Because love without respect isn't love. It's emotional dependency dressed up as devotion. And when you finally understand that, the whole game changes. See, when a woman destroys a man, she doesn't just take his heart, she takes his belief in himself. She makes him feel like no one will ever understand him the way she did. But that's the lie that keeps him trapped. The truth is, she never understood him. She just studied his weaknesses. She didn't love his depth, she exploited it. And when you realize that difference, the healing starts. Healing doesn't begin with moving on. It begins when you stop romanticizing the pain. When you stop calling her the one who got away and start calling her the one who taught me to see. When you stop replaying the good times as proof that she cared and start seeing them as bait that kept you hooked. That's when you start reclaiming your fire. You begin to look in the mirror and see a man who survived emotional warfare, and now he's wiser, sharper, unshakable. Because once a man learns what manipulation looks like, he never forgets it. He starts protecting his peace the way he once protected her feelings. And that's when the tables turn, not in revenge, but in clarity. Because now, he no longer chases validation. He creates it within himself.
When a man finally awakens from that emotional fog, something incredible happens. He stops needing closure from her. He realizes that no apology, no explanation, no tearful confession could ever fix what she broke inside him. Because it was never about her words. It was about the imbalance she created in his soul. That moment when he cared too much and she cared too little. When his effort became her entitlement. When his love became her leverage. The hardest pill to swallow is this: she may never understand the damage she caused. Some people simply don't have the emotional depth to comprehend the destruction they leave behind. But that doesn't mean you stay angry. It means you stop expecting accountability from someone who isn't capable of self-reflection. You stop waiting for her to feel guilt she'll never feel. That's not healing. That's self-torture. You heal when you start reclaiming what she took. Your voice, your confidence, your boundaries, your peace. You begin to rebuild not as the man who was broken, but as the man who learned. You start valuing silence over chaos, solitude over manipulation, authenticity over performance. And the beautiful part, you start attracting peace that feels nothing like her, and everything like freedom. It's in this phase that women who once underestimated you begin to notice something different. They see your new energy, that calm strength that doesn't seek approval, that quiet confidence that doesn't beg for love. It's intimidating because it's the energy of a man who no longer needs validation to know his worth. A man who's seen hell and refused to stay there. And while she may one day come back, with nostalgia in her eyes, regret in her tone, you'll smile, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Because you'll know that the version of you she destroyed no longer exists. She can't reach this new man, the one who's emotionally bulletproof, spiritually grounded, and clear on what he deserves. That's the moment you truly win, not when you make her miss you, but when you no longer need her to. You stop looking for revenge, and you start focusing on evolution. You stop trying to prove your value because now you embody it. And when you reach that point, my friend, no woman, no heartbreak, no manipulation can ever destroy you again. And here's where everything comes full circle. Because when a man rises from the ashes of emotional destruction, he doesn't just rebuild his life, he redefines his identity. He no longer chases the kind of love that drains him. He no longer mistakes chaos for connection. He no longer confuses attachment with devotion. Instead, he learns the rarest, most powerful lesson of all, that peace is the highest form of love and self-respect is the deepest form of attraction. The truth is, a woman can only destroy a man who hasn't met his own strength yet. The moment he begins to see his emotions not as weaknesses, but as signals, when he learns to walk away from manipulation instead of trying to fix it, he becomes untouchable. Not because he's cold, but because he's aware. He's no longer chasing fantasy. He's choosing reality. He's no longer trying to be enough for someone who thrives on keeping him uncertain. He's finally enough for himself. That's the power of awakening. It changes your entire vibration. You start attracting women who respect your time, value your energy, and match your peace. You no longer fall for words. You watch actions. You no longer chase potential. You seek alignment. And that's when you realize that the woman who once destroyed you didn't end your story. She ignited it. Because without that pain, you wouldn't have found your purpose. Every scar, every sleepless night, every moment you doubted yourself was preparing you for the day you'd rise with clarity. The kind of clarity that makes manipulation impossible and peace non-negotiable. You become the man who can love deeply without losing himself, who can give freely without being drained, who can walk away without hate. That's not bitterness, that's power. So, to every man listening right now, understand this: she may have broken your heart, but she didn't break you. You're still here. You're still breathing. You still have the power to rewrite your story. And when you do, you'll realize something profound, that the woman who tried to destroy you actually built your strength. She forced you to meet the version of yourself you were always meant to become.